This nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. Belongs to you. Because it was the hard-working patriots like you who built this country, and tomorrow it is the hard-working patriots like you who are going to save our country.
And it's I don't know if you guys in the UK understand how sad it is for us in Canada and in the United States to watch what you're doing to yourself. I mean, the UK is a great country. When I go there, I go to Oxford, I go to Cambridge, to these remarkable places in London, see your unbelievable places in London, understand how much the world owes the UK in terms of, say, the establishment of common law and decent government everywhere, including places like India. We owe the UK such an immense debt. And to watch you guys like spiral yourselves into the ground for this idiot, weak political correctness that's gone so far that you can allow your working class women to be en masse sadistically.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
The people have the sovereignty of the nation.
Yeah, nigga, this war. I'm putting bodies on the floor. I'm with it all. I talk to my demons and I see the writings on the wall. Niggas is dying when it's on. I get excited for them calls. And no one ain't crying when he gone. Cause brody, we fighting for the cause. I do this shit for my brothers. We do this shit for each other. The whole world watching the movie. So everybody see me suffer. They done JFK my demon. Now bro not breathing. Like too short. So if I tell you I love you, I mean it.
Yo. Hey everybody, you're watching Matiz Broadcast Official. Today, well first, hope everyone's doing well. Hope you all are doing great. Hope you're having a great week so far. You know, halfway through the week. I think it's been quite good. Nothing's been going on, nothing too crazy's been going on, but we do have some stuff to talk about today. Some very new, very interesting bills that have been passed, and some very interesting conclusions that I think we've come to. So, yeah, that should be interesting. What else? Yeah, I know. Hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there, especially if you're in London. Before we get into everything, let me introduce the topics. So, for tonight's show, we're going to be talking about obviously, there's been new executive orders. So, Trump has come out with an order basically cutting all aid to South Africa. We're going to be discussing why that's happened. And, we're going to just be discussing topics around that. We're going to be discussing the new implications with the Gaza ceasefire deal, because ever since Netanyahu basically went to visit the USA, went to Washington, there's been kind of disruptions in the ceasefire deal, and we're going to be getting into that, and we might be talking about some Elon Musk and the things he's been doing in the Oval Office, and how he's kind of swooped his way in, and he wasn't even that big of a Trump fan. But yeah, other than that, until 2024, he was anti-Trump. He was voting for Rob DeSantis back in over a year ago in 2023 when Rob DeSantis was running. But anyways, we'll get into that as well. But I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you all are staying safe. I was on the train recently, so I have to go to my university, and I was on the train recently, because I have to commute there. And there's all these beggars now. I think they've all come up with like a strategy. All the beggars, they've all got together and they all come up with this like new strategy now. So they like, I feel like at night when it's late at night and you see them and there's like a small fire and there's like 4 or 5 beggars just huddled around that fire. I feel like all the beggars have come together, and basically what they've done is they've kind of discussed like, oh, I feel like they give ideas to each other where they're like, okay, this is the best strategy. No, this is the best strategy. Oh no, I made more money doing this. Oh, I made more money doing this. It's kind of like, how the elites meet up and they're like, okay, this is the best strategy to make money. Okay, this is the best way to make money. You know what I mean? How the rich people meet up to make money. I feel like the beggars do the same thing. And they met up. I feel like they all have, because recently there's been like this massive uprise of beggars on trains. So what's happened is all these beggars, they come onto the trains. There's a multitude of them. So each train is like a segment, right? So there's like a small segment here, then there's a small segment here, etc. Like they're not connected. You can't pass through the segments. So what these beggars do is every time the train stops, so there'll be like one beggar on this end, one beggar on that end, and then 2 beggars in the middle, and then they kind of like come at it like this. So there's like 4 beggars just like going through the train. Every time it stops, they go into the next segment, they go into the next segment. And what they're doing is, they just basically, they walk up to every person and they ask them for money. Now, look, I'm not one to just give money out like that, especially to these guys. They don't look typically homeless. Like, there's people who are homeless because they're unfortunate, because they've been given unfortunate circumstances. But then there's people who choose to be homeless because they can't be bothered to work. And I feel like the beggars that are on these trains, they look and they sound like they want to be homeless. They're coming in, their jeans is sagging, you can see their butt from behind, they don't look good at all. They come at you, you say, oh, they approach you in like this aggressive manner where they like kind of, step to you. And what they do is, they basically step to you in this aggressive manner, right? And they're like, oh, do you have any spare change? And you're like, no, sorry, I don't have any spare change. And then they're like, oh, I just want some money, man. Like, what are you talking about? Firstly, I don't even carry much spare change. I do have some cash notes. I'm not gonna give them like £10 cash though. I'm a brokey too. I'm in uni. I don't have money like that. But I know I don't really carry. I mean, for the most part, most people carry cards nowadays. Because I don't see why anyone would not carry any sort of card, like a debit card or credit card. I mean, that's what people use nowadays. That's what I suppose, at least. I mean, I doubt people still carry cash. I mean, we're living in 2024. I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't know, but I mean that's something that happened to me recently. It's like it's very strange how these beggars operate. It's very strange. It's funny. It's actually funny. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I saw a clip on Twitter of um, Aiden Ross and his team, and like they did a stream with like Jake Paul, and they were doing like all these Jewish dances and stuff. It was funny. It was funny. But hope you guys are doing well. You know, anyway, I'm not gonna talk about that. But anyways, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys been going to church. Hope you guys been, you know, praying. Hope you guys been staying safe. Yeah, you know, with all yeah, that's what I was coming to. You know, these beggars on the trains. I feel like some of them might flip out sometimes. You know, I don't think they're the most like they're not the safest guys. I feel like if they don't get any money, like you know, when it gets to a level of frustration, like I feel like they have no control over their emotions. That if it gets to a point where they get rejected by everyone on the train, they're just gonna get so angry that they just might flip out on someone, and they might hit you, or you know, I don't even know what they're carrying. They might have a knife, or one of my friends actually told me this, guys. I don't do drugs, so I don't know anything about them. I've never smoked anything or done anything like that. But one of my friends told me that basically with drugs, these druggies you see on the street, because you know they're very strange and they're always like they'll holler at you. Obviously, you guys should just ignore them. But yeah, these druggies on the streets, they walk around and they have their injections, and they keep their injections with them. And apparently, they can come up to you and they can stab you with the injection, and then you can just get a bunch of different diseases and maybe even overdose right there and die. So you got to be careful of these druggies, guys. And most of these beggars are usually druggies, and we can call that on you know, unfortunate circumstances. Or they've been, you know, they got into drugs at a young age, but they made that choice. I mean, can we say? I mean, if they were under the age of 18, maybe they were influenced to a certain degree. But I mean, guys, come on, like there's a bunch of 18-year-olds who, you know, who've said no. I mean, I've said no. I had a lot of friends that did drugs, and you just have to say no, guys. That's what it comes down to, really. At the end of the day, you just have to say no. But anyway, um, let's get into the main topics of the day. So, firstly, we're going to be touching on the South Africa case. Now, this was a very interesting case. I've actually been to South Africa. I've been to Johannesburg. It's a beautiful country, second richest country in Africa after Nigeria. So, a very wealthy country in terms of gold, in terms of diamonds. You know, they're massive miners of gold and diamonds. They're very, very rich in both their culture and their, you know, physical income. And yeah, it's a great country. I have nothing bad to say about South Africa. But recently, there's been. I'll break this down for you guys. So, if you guys didn't know, there was a massive apartheid that happened in South Africa, and it happened in the 1900s, and it ended in 1994, if I'm not wrong. And what happened during this apartheid is basically there was a massive segregation between the whites and the blacks were kind of, you know, there was a lot of bad stuff. I don't even know if we can talk about it on Twitch. But yeah, so what happened with the South Africans is basically they have now, so basically the black South Africans, there's this new party in South Africa. It's called the ANC. It's been running since 2018. And what's happened is basically there's this new party that came out under Julius Malema, who's the leader. It's called the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, if I'm not wrong. And they've come out, and they've basically come out and they've won a bunch of seats in parliament. They've won 40 seats in parliament, which is about 10%. So them winning this 10%, these 40 seats in parliament, have given them legislative power over the government. So now the ruling party, which is the ANC, it's the big party, it's the party that runs the country, the ANC, they have to now, basically any executive orders that are passed, they have to go through the EFF, because the EFF have major control. The EFF are also run by previous, they've basically kind of joined forces with a previous Prime Minister of South Africa called Jacob Zuma. So what's happened is they've basically teamed up. And what the law is basically they've come out and they've said that they want basically an expropriation bill against all white farmers. So what happened is in 1913 there was a Native Land Act, which basically gave all white farmers. So they took up less than 10% of the population in South Africa. They took up 10%, yeah, only less than 10% of the population in South Africa, and basically they were given about 82% of the land in South Africa in 1913. And by around the early 2000s, they had about 72% of the land in South Africa was controlled by the white people. So what happened is these black people, they came out and, well, not the black people, but specifically the black South Africans. And they're like, okay, there's massive inequality here, right? There's massive inequality and we need to fix this. So this new party came out called the EFF, which was ran under Julius Malema. And he basically came out and he said, and he's basically targeting these young, misrepresented kind of, this misrepresented group of black young South Africans. And he's basically garnered a large support of this certain segment of South Africa. And yeah, so basically the law is basically an expropriation of land without any compensation, which basically means the government is going to take all land owned by white farmers, and basically they're not going to pay them for the land, and they're just going to make them public services. So they're going to take all the land that white farmers own, and they're just going to make it a public service. Now, this bill was actually pushed in 2018, and it hasn't been put into place yet because of political tensions and a whole wide range of issues, such as like investment issues. Like, I mean, if it raises so many questions, right? So it hasn't been fully implemented yet. But ever since Trump came into office, he basically came in, and obviously Elon, as you guys have seen, has been in major support of Trump. And Trump and Elon have become great allies. And Elon is not actually American. He was born in South Africa, right? That's technically his country. So, and he's white as well. So he came out and said this bill is completely racist, and he probably had major influence on Trump's executive order that was passed. So Trump came out with this executive order, and it basically stated that the US is cutting all foreign aid to South Africa. Any sort of aid is being cut until this bill is just taken out of the Constitution, or taken out of, and it shouldn't be in the conversation practically. That's what Trump came out and said. And basically, yeah, this has caused major mayhem in South Africa because the law hasn't even been put into place yet, and nothing's been enacted. But yeah, it's been crazy, guys. But Trump came out with this, and it's basically support for. He also came out and he said, I mean, there were two things on the executive order practically, and one was basically well, it wasn't a misrepresentation per se, but a kind of, yeah, basically a misrepresentation of a certain racial ethnic group, like not misrepresentation, but abuse of a certain race, a certain segment of South Africa, which was the white people. So that was one reason why foreign aid was cut. But the other reason is because of South Africa's stance on Israel. And yeah, that's the other issue. So basically South Africa has come out, and because of the apartheid, because South Africa went through a massive apartheid, they basically came out and said that the Palestinians are going through the same thing. The Palestinians are also going through a genocide, right? And what's happened is basically the Palestinians, South Africa has basically come out and said that the Palestinians are going through a genocide. And obviously, the West is in massive support of, countries like South Africa. Countries like Israel. And Israel is the West's greatest ally. So when, Donald Trump heard of this, and, knowing that the largest donors to Donald Trump are, Israelis, in terms of, the massive companies that donate to Trump to fund his administration, not to fund his administration, but to serve his marketing campaign and whatnot, are Israelis, and in terms of the Silicon Valley companies, which are owned by Israelis. Companies like Shopify that you guys saw recently banned Kanye. They banned Kanye because the owner of Shopify was Jewish, and Kanye was selling, the swash stickers on T-shirts. So yeah, that was crazy. Which is, it's fair, but I was just pointing that out, that these major companies in Silicon Valley are owned by Israelis, and yeah, so they're major donors to Trump, and arguably they're the reason that he won, right? Because they funded his marketing campaign. So obviously, because of South Africa's support for Israel, and then this law, to kind of expropriate white people and their land, Trump has came out with the executive order to cut all foreign aid. Now, what's interesting is we have to really look at it, and when we actually look at it, the white people, they've come out and they've basically said, oh, Trump's standing up for white people. That's a great thing. Trump's standing out for white people. He's standing up for, he's basically standing up for white people. In South Africa, he came out with an order saying if the South Africans want to leave South Africa, they have free refugee status in America. They can come to America and they can live in America and they can prosper in America. They can all leave and they can prosper in America. So Trump's came out with that order as well, in addition to the executive order. So it's interesting because if the whole reasoning and the whole reason behind this was to help white people, then I think we all would have come to the conclusion that people in Haiti are arguably going through much worse circumstances. They literally live in a shithole. Let's be honest here, guys. You know what? I don't like to use profanities during my stream, but if we're being honest, the people in Haiti are going through an absolute shithole. They live in a shithole, but Trump doesn't offer them refugee status in America. You know what I mean? And during various other genocides, like even the one in Palestine, or even the one in Rwanda, Trump didn't offer them refugee status in America, a safe haven sort of. But he does it for the white South African. So when we look at it, it's more so if the reasoning is that it is that they're kind of racially discriminating against ethnic minority, then basically Trump is basically saying that it's fine if it's white people, but if it's the blacks who are getting ethnically discriminated, you don't get refugee status. If it's the Palestinians that are getting ethnically discriminated, you don't get refugee status. But if it's the whites that get ethnically discriminated, you do get refugee status. So, although I do agree with Trump, he has to be open to this criticism, and I don't see how he, came up with this bill or came up with this idea, and basically didn't prepare for this sort of criticism to come out, because this is an obvious criticism that Trump would have faced when pushing out this executive order. So I don't know how he didn't take that into consideration. But yeah, ongoing, I think that this bill is crazy. I don't think it's right personally. And it's crazy what's going on in South Africa, because when we look at countries like Zimbabwe, which was before, before it was called Zimbabwe, it was called Rodeo. And what happened in Zimbabwe was they basically they had an expropriation bill, which basically kicked out all the white people and they took back their lands, basically. Zimbabwe did this. And Uganda did the same thing with Asians, where they kicked out all the Asians from Uganda at some point. Now, what's the overall conclusion? What happened after they did this? Well, we've come to realize that basically once Zimbabwe previously known as Rodeo, came out and kicked all these, these white people out, and Uganda came out and kicked all the Asians out, their economies completely collapsed. Zimbabwe completely collapsed. They went through complete economic turmoil. One piece of bread was worth 100,000 Zimbabwean dollars at some point. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. Uganda went through complete economic turmoil because most of the major industries in Uganda were run by Asians. And once they kicked them out and replaced them with the average Ugandan, the average black Ugandan person, they couldn't run the industry at the same level. Same thing happened in Zimbabwe. So now South Africa is trying to do the same thing. And it's going to ruin their economy. Because one, it's going to take out the most productive, well, maybe not most productive, but the people who know how to run these industries. One. Two, it's going to reduce any sort of foreign investment into the country. There's going to be a complete reduction of any foreign investment into South Africa. Why? Because why would people want to build a business in a country like South Africa when they can just come in with a random bill that the EFF has sort of enacted in a way with the help of MK and the ANC? And why would foreign investors want to invest in a country, and why would foreigners even want to flock to this country when when the government can just come in and expropriate their land? No, they won't come to that country. So it's going to reduce any sort of foreign investment. There's going to be complete foreign aid cuts like the USA is doing to South Africa right now. Europe might even come out with something against South Africa, and yeah. So I think it's a bad idea from South Africa. The leader Julius Malema is a complete fool of an individual. He's literally come out and said, for every black person they kill, so every one black person they kill, we will go and we will kill 10 white people. That's what he has said. He said, for every one black person that we kill, I will go out and kill 10 white people. I think that is the rhetoric that he proposes. He's a complete fool of a person, and he's not fit to run the country. And the people that stand by him are absolute fools as well. Do I think he has some good policies? I mean, they want to reduce inequality after the apartheid, and yeah, I guess it wasn't their land, whatnot. That's a fair point. But to come out and say silly things like that should just be it's out of the picture completely, and shouldn't even be a topic of concern or topic of discussion. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, South Africa is a complete failure, and this just goes to show, guys, every country wants their people to prosper. It's only in the West where we have this idea or ideology of fairness. Maybe we have to be looked upon as this kind of, this as the dad, as like, okay, you're not there yet, but eventually you have to get to my level. You have to get to my work ethic. You have to get to this level of fairness. We have to be looked at as this government or this society that wants to be envied. And but it's not working. It's not working because all these other countries, they want it to be majority their people. South Africa is a black country. They want it to be majority black, or they want the land to be majority black owned. Same with Saudi Arabia. I guarantee you, if there was 100,000 white people who just entered Saudi Arabia, they would be like, no, we want this country to be majority Arab. Just like in America, when they say they want the country to be majority white, or in the UK when they say that shouldn't be a problem, because all these other countries have the same thing. But when the people, some people will, let's say someone migrates from Nigeria, right? If they were, I think the population in Nigeria is around 300 million. I could be wrong, but let's say it's around 300 million. If 200 million white people just came to Nigeria, do you think the average Nigerian person would be all right with it? Probably not. Probably not. So when, 100,000 to even, because, England's population is a lot less. So when, 1 million Nigerians come to England, and the English person is like, oh, we don't want 1 million Nigerians coming to our country anymore, we're being replaced, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when it becomes a serious problem, and that's when, and then that's when these topics have to be discussed. And If other countries are doing it, then why is it wrong for the West to do it? The West, I feel like the people in the West who come here, they have this like certain agenda that they've already put into place. They don't actually think. They don't actually use their brains. They don't actually look at how other countries would treat them. They come here, they're treated well, they have freedom of speech, they have all these different things, and when they go to another country, they think they're going to get treated the same way. But they don't. They're treated ridiculously, and then they come back and they're like, these people treat me ridiculously, but we treat these guys so fairly. F these guys. I think that's how the average Western person thinks. At least is coming to think as the pendulum is shifting from the left to the right. As you see major corporations or major political institutions like Reform in the in the UK, and Republicans in the US and the ANC in Germany. All these companies, all these industries or political parties are growing in large numbers, and the reason is that the Westerners are completely tired of this, and they want to see it done. They don't want immigrants anymore, and yeah, that's basically the gist of it. But yeah, that's basically it for the South Africa case. I think it's a pretty interesting case. I think we've looked at it quite a bit when we went through it thoroughly. We could go through the apartheid specifically, but yeah, I don't think we need to. I think that we've gone over it and we've discussed it quite well. I think that overall, I think that whatever Julius Malema is proposing isn't the best of ideas. I think expropriating the land, I can understand the reasoning behind it because of the Native Lands Act, which basically took all land from black people, the black South Africans, and gave it to the white South Africans. But yeah, and now they want it back. Yeah, it's a very polarizing topic. There is two sides to the argument, obviously. Do I think the bill is fair? Do I think refugee status is fair? That's a whole nother argument. Because Trump wants to help the white people. It's obvious. Because they're white. Because he wouldn't do the same for the if it was like brown people getting subjugated, he probably wouldn't help. But it's because of Elon, I would say that this is coming out as a major policy, because Elon is South African at the end of the day. And then, yeah, it's interesting. It's a super interesting topic. I think that there is two sides to the argument. So if you guys, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. You can let me know. But super interesting, super polarizing though. Super polarizing, and yeah, I can understand why. Apparently, I remember looking at South Africa's unemployment in 2023, and it was around 30%. So unemployment in South Africa was 30%. So, and it's a majority. It's a majority. The people who are unemployed are a majority blacks. So the blacks they aren't getting hired. They aren't getting. They can't find jobs. They're basically making no income, and they're kind of looking for this solution. And Julius Malema came out and said, "We're going to give you this land, and you're going to own this land, and you're going to become rich off this land because, the white people are super rich off this land." But I don't think it's going to be that easy. I don't think it's going to work that way. Zimbabwe tried it, and it did not work. The economy completely collapsed. Uganda did it. Their economy completely collapsed. It took years for them to finally get it going again, and yeah, super interesting, but super polarizing as well. But yeah, guys, what are your thoughts? What are your guys' thoughts on that? I think it's an interesting topic. But super polarizing, and yeah. But anyway, we're going to be getting into the next topic. I think we're going to be talking about the Gaza ceasefire and how the deal is basically falling apart. So, if you guys have seen recently, I don't know if you've seen, but Netanyahu went and he visited Washington, D.C. he went to the Oval Office, and under Biden couldn't get him to do that for years. And many countries, because Netanyahu is a war criminal, and he's being prosecuted by the human rights. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's a human rights company. So he could actually, if he lands in countries like South Africa, for example, he could be arrested right there because he's basically causing a genocide. Well, at least the countries that, yeah, I mean he is practically, but that's what these countries say. He's a war criminal, and if he steps foot on their land, he will be arrested immediately. So he visited Washington recently, and Trump came out with this deal because there was this massive impasse in Palestine and Israel, or with that war, there was just a massive impasse, and Trump came out with this ordeal to basically annex all Palestinians, which means he's telling them to leave, and he's going to rebuild their country for them and make it this international hemisphere. I spoke about this before in one of my previous shows, but yeah, so that was the ordeal, and so Trump came out with this policy, and what Netanyahu did is he went back to Israel, and he basically told everyone that, oh, the ceasefire is off, and it's going to be off soon, and blah 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 blah, and he's basically treating it like like the ceasefire is off when it clearly isn't off, but that's what he was saying. So Hamas heard this, and all these other terrorist organizations heard this, or so-called terrorist organizations heard this, and they basically said that, okay, if Israel does this, the Houthis came out and they basically said, if Israel does this, we're going to come out and we're just going to start attacking the Red Sea again. Not the Red Sea, the what was it? It was that land between, I don't know where it was on the map specifically, but they're going to start bombing ships again in that area, wherever they're at. So they're going to start bombing ships again. And so why this is a concern is basically if they start bombing ships again, and they start bombing specifically American cargo ships, Trump's the new sheriff in town, guys, and he's there to put a message out. He's done that with the new tariffs coming out on, Canada and Mexico, with the new threatened tariffs on Colombia if they don't take in their criminal immigrants. And what he's going to do, if the Houthis start bombing American vessels, is he's going to retaliate. And how is he going to retaliate, you might ask? What he's going to do is he's just going to bomb the shit out of all the Houthis. He's going to bomb the shit out of Hezbollah and all these other people, and it's just going to be a complete shit show. And yeah, that's basically what's going to happen. And I think that's what they're pushing towards. And throughout this whole conflict, we've seen that whenever there was a ceasefire, the ceasefires never lasted. And the reason for this is because Netanyahu has come out with certain policies and certain conditions that Hamas have to meet that he knows Hamas would never accept. And he's come out with these conditions, and eventually, Hamas don't meet them, such as, for example, like, Hamas have to give away us the 200 hostages, and then there'll be a ceasefire. But he knows Hamas won't do that. He comes out with these ridiculous ordeals, and Hamas don't do it, and then boom, the ceasefire is broken. And the same thing's going to happen the next time. I mean, this Saturday, Hamas have to give in 3 hostages, or then the ceasefire deal is broken. And by March, the ceasefire just completely ends. So yeah, there's a lot that we have to wait for, but what my prediction is basically the ceasefire is going to end. I mean, this is the first time Israel has a direct chance to attack Iran because they've bombed all, aircraft, all the air defense in Syria, and all their military devices in Syria. They've come out and they've bombed them, so they have now direct flight control to Iran. And my prediction is basically Israel's going to come out, and they're going to bomb the Houthis, and well, no, they're not going to bomb the Houthis. The ceasefire is going to end, and what's going to happen is they're going to start attack. So because there's an impasse right now, nobody's under attack. So Hezbollah is not under attack. The Houthis aren't under attack. Iran is not under attack. Hamas are not under attack. But once the ceasefire deal ends, then all these major, divisions are all under war again. So once the ceasefire deal ends with Gaza, all these other countries are at war again. So Hezbollah is back at war, the Houthis are back at war, Iran's back at war, Hamas are back at war. So I predict that the ceasefire will end, and once it does end, the Houthis are going to go back to war and they're going to start bombing American vessels. And once they start bombing American vessels, this is going to be a direct reason for Trump to come out and just bomb the shit out of all the Houthis and just get rid of these terrorist groups. And Israel's going to come out and just bomb the shit out of Hamas. And because Trump is such an aggressor and he has massive support towards Israel, he's just going to let them. He's going to let them, and they're going to bomb Hezbollah too, and they might even attack Iran. We'll see what happens, but Trump's meeting with the Iranian president soon, but we're going to see what happens, and should be very interesting. Should be very, very interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what's been going on with that ordeal, with that case specifically. But yeah, guys, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you guys have anything interesting to say? Do you guys have any opinions specifically on these issues? I think it's quite interesting. I think that all these ordeals that they've come out with, they are quite interesting, and yeah. I just want to check if my mic is working here, guys. Just give me a second. All these ordeals they've come out with, they are quite interesting, and yeah. I just want to check. Okay, my mic is working good, so you guys can hear me. But yeah, that's basically what's been going on. Yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you guys have anything interesting to say? And then we'll just touch on the last topic, and then we can just chill. We can talk, and yeah. So should be good, guys. Let me just pull up the stream. Hopefully you guys like my suit. I got the red tie on today. Obviously we're conservative, so the red tie, it always works. But yeah, I mean, we'll touch on the last topic here, guys. So, and then we can have a more of a chill chat. We can react to the chats and hear what you guys have to say. So, new Trump bill # Gaza ceasefire falling apart. Okay, so we're gonna get on the Elon Musk thing. I think we've discussed that. I've given you guys my prediction, and there's not much going on right now. So we'll have to wait and see for what happens, because in March is when stuff's really gonna go down, because there's the budget reconciliation. There is the ceasefire deal is ending then. So March is what we need to look out for. March is when the big months are, and when we're really gonna see Trump's executive orders go into place, because right now he's come through with executive orders, but they're basically low-hanging fruits, which means they can be replaced very easily, and any new administration that comes in could just reverse any of those executive orders and just reverse them completely. But anyways, we'll talk about Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk has obviously, as you guys have seen, gained a large amount of attention in politics. And he's come out and he said in a certain interview in the Oval Office, and he said, we're tired of these people, these unelected people running our government. He's basically talking about the deep state. He said, we're tired of these unelected bureaucrats who aren't voted for running our system. But he doesn't even see the hypocrisy there, because he's an unelected bureaucrat. Who voted for Elon? No one voted for Elon, but he still has legislative power in the government. Well, maybe not legislative, but a large degree of power. I mean, he has his own division, which is DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. He has his whole division in the government. So yeah. Yo, what's up, Pro Versatility? Shout out to you. Um, yeah, but yeah, we were just talking about, we're on the last topic here, so we're talking about Elon and yeah, everything to do with that. So yeah, I mean he's come out as a complete hypocrite basically, and he's saying that we're tired of these unelected people running our governments. We didn't vote for them, but they still have so much power over our government. But no one voted for Elon. No one voted for him. Yeah, he was a massive donor to Trump, and maybe he was the reason that Trump even won. But no one donated to him. So I think that's interesting. I think that yeah. So that's pretty much it for today. I think we've discussed it. I think that yeah, my point there was just to make that the point I made prior to what I was saying now was that Elon has this large power over the government, but no one really voted him in, and I think it's interesting. I think that Elon's not really even an American born, so I don't think he should have that large, that mass. Yeah, he shouldn't have that much power over the government. Trump should be running the country, not Elon. And yeah, I think that's my final message there. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to talk about when it comes to what's been going on with the politics recently. It's been kind of it's been again impasses in Gaza, and we talked about the South Africa situation, which was crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the what's been going on in South Africa, pro-versatility, um, I would be willing to discuss that with you, or I mean, yeah, whatever. So yeah, um, but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on? Do you know did you know any of this stuff was going on? If you did, what are your thoughts on it? I think it's interesting. Thoughts on article I sent 1 week ago, the one against military conscription. Um, if I'm being honest with you, I did forget about the main points on that article. I do remember it kind of. It was about the monarchy, right? If I'm not wrong, I can't remember specifically, but um, pro versatility. Okay? We can talk about that, but do you want to talk about like anything been going? Because recently there's been like a new executive order passed on South Africa. Basically helping the white people. Giving white people from South Africa refugee status in America. There's been a lot been going on with the Gaza ceasefire falling apart, and yeah, if you can talk about that, Elon, you can read it on stream or have a TDS app read it to you. Do you know what the TTS app is? Because we could look at it together then, or I could read it for you. I don't mind. But before we get into that, I mean, if you have any questions on the topic above, we could discuss that. If not, yeah, we can go straight into military conscription. Yeah, but other than that, how you been? How's the how's the weather been there? It's been freezing over here for the past couple of days. Typical English is, I mean, typical English weather. Nothing great, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a reader app, a human voice AI reads texts. That might take too much time to download this stream. I could download it for next stream, um, because I'll only be on again for 2 hours. It's been so yeah, I'll be on for about another hour and a half. Well, an hour and 10 minutes. But yeah, I mean, I could just read it. That's completely fine. I could just read it. I don't think you need to, or if I don't need to download it, what's it called? Just find me the name, and then I can. Do I have to like add it to? It's like a browser extension, I'm guessing. Then I would guess. I'm not sure. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, but other than that, I think that no browser extension. I think reading an article is free, I guess. Yeah, but like, how would I get the AI to read it? Yeah, I mean, if you are you saying I should read it? I don't mind reading it. I know it's free, but I'm saying for the AI thing, you would probably need to download something. I'm guessing, or unless I could highlight the text. I think I know what you're talking about. I've done it before, but I've done it on like Word. Copy and paste the article text. Oh, I see. Okay, I could do that. I could definitely do that. Um, yeah, just post the article in, and I'll get that all sorted. Yeah. But yeah, you know what? You are right. I think I do need to get some better lighting. I think the lighting is a bit bad, but we'll get it soon. You know, once we start making some money, and we'll get a proper mic too. So yeah, but I don't think it's too bad. I don't know. Just yeah, just find me that article, and I'll paste it in the haircut. I don't think the hair is that bad. I don't think it's that bad. I think the side let the sides grow out a little bit, and then it will look less big. But yeah, it's not that long. It's not that long. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe a little bit. I do need to cut maybe an inch or two off. But haircuts are expensive. They're like £25. So you know, I mean, I'm not dying having this hair. It is a bit big though. I do agree. But anyway, see now you've made me like hair conscious. To be fair, it is. I probably do need to get a haircut though. But anyway. Yeah, but anyway, do you have any thoughts on today's topic? Or you just want to go straight into military conscription? And yeah, what topics would you want to see me debate with the individual you picked? I was thinking like tariffs. I was thinking tariffs. I was thinking immigration, because those are the two, they're the two major topics of concern right now. I mean, the tariffs that Trump are implementing on everyone, as well as the uh, yeah, as well as immigration. Those are the two major concerns in America right now. So that's why I wanted to touch on that specifically. But yeah, anyway, sliding is trash. But yeah, just give me the link for the military conscription, and I'll paste it into the AI website that you're talking about. Anyway, I don't know if you've given me the link yet, but yeah, I mean, anything else you want me to touch on or want me to talk about? I mean, we do. One of the two. Alright, I'm gonna try copy this. Okay, I'm gonna put my headphones on.
Dear team, I hope this email finds. Dear team, I hope this
I think we'll go with that
email
one.
finds you.
Commercial use.
Natural.
Okay. I have to register. I'm just gonna read it out on stream. I think it's a lot easier if I did that. So yeah, I mean this would probably be better actually. If I go studio mode and then fade to black. Can you see my screen or no? Okay, there we go. So if I fade to black and then transition, that doesn't actually do anything, but anyway. So there's a great deal. So this is from the Reason, Free Minds of Thinkers. There's a great deal of disquieting talk in the United States these days about. So when was this made? When was this article written? It doesn't say. What is this? It can be serious. 19. I don't know. Anyway. There's a great deal of disquieting talk in the United States these days about reverting to conscription of the nation's youth. This conscription is to be used not only to fill the military ranks, but also under the dubious title of national service to federal government jobs or jobs designated as desirable by the federal government. Sorry about that. Libertarians thought that the battle against conscription had been won, but statists almost never give up on any possibility for increasing their power. Today, an alliance of conservatives who want the military draft and liberals who want the mandatory national service has created a real possibility that a proposal combining both could obtain the congressional votes necessary for passage. Obviously, such a proposal is even more repulsive and immoral, if degrees of immortality are possible. Then okay, so I think this is just basically. So let's look at this. Those wishing to reinstitute the draft, mostly conservatives, mainly emphasize the enormous and exploding costs of military manpower. They argue that these costs make it much more difficult for the United States to finance all its needs for military hardware and technology. This difficulty in turn makes it more likely that the United States will eventually fall behind the Soviet Union in both areas. Obviously, with a draft, wage rates for personnel could be lowered and outlays for manpower reduced. This is what conservatives mean by their claim that the use of the draft would lower defense costs. Thus, they conclude the military problem could be solved, or at least substantially alleviated, by a return to military conscription. This argument seems to have a kind of superficial validity, but it falls apart completely when subjected to economic analysis. Contrary to the claim of conservatives, the reinstallation of the draft would not result in the true cost of military personnel being magically lowered from the cost of the present all-volunteer force. The true economic cost of having an individual in the military is not the wage he is paid, but rather the goods and services he could have produced in the private economy. The opportunity cost, as it's called by economists. The wage rate an individual earns in the private economy is a minimum indication of his productivity there. No businessman who expects to continue in operation can afford to pay a worker more than the value of his output. With an all-volunteer army, individuals must be paid at least what they could have earned in a private economy to induce them to volunteer. Thus, the taxpayer has to pay the true cost of having these individuals in the military. The result of the use of a draft to obtain military personnel would be that the economic burden of the military, rather than being reduced, would be simply shifted from the general taxpayer onto the shoulders of the conscripted individuals. A tax break would be given to civilians at the expense of draftees. Okay, I'm not gonna I'm gonna read it in my head. You can read it yourself because it's too slow when I read it aloud. Battery died, I'll use this account. Okay, I mean, I read the first part. I'm not gonna read it aloud anymore because it's too time consuming. I'm just gonna read it quickly and then we could have this conversation. I think I kind of get the gist of it. I mean, you're basically saying that it's so. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong here. But basically, if I'm not wrong, the argument that you bring up is that basically, I'll take these off. We don't actually, I thought it was a video. It was an article. But basically, what you're saying is military conscription is wrong because there's a large opportunity cost and the people aren't getting paid enough, and the people who usually enter are low skilled or low wage, and yeah, there's a massive opportunity cost. It's a massive cost to the government because they could have been producing in other areas, and the government could use that money, that money through taxpayers' money is what I mean, to fund like machinery to do the same jobs that they do. Is that the whole argument that you're bringing up? Look, I don't know if you're there, but anyway, I mean, we'll move on. I mean, I'm not sure if you're there. Is anyone there? You gave me the article. I read it for the most part. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I understand the gist of it. I'm not too deep in this argument. That's secondary to what I mainly want to focus on. I oppose it on the grounds of violating personal autonomy and individual freedom. I understand what you mean, but again, look, I would argue that the country, at the end of the day, needs to defend itself, and the same way that you defend your home, the same way you would need to defend your country. And you know what? Let's say a criminal's robbing your home, and you have your wife and kids there. You know, it's the man's job to step out and defend the whole family. And he might not want to, he might be scared, whatnot, but it's his job to protect the family. Since when did the country become above indie? What does that mean? Individual rights. I mean, it's not about individual rights. I think it's like the country. I mean, the man might not like to defend his home. Again, I'm giving you an analogy here. The man might not want to defend his home, but he has to. It's his job to, and I think it's intrinsic amongst most men to have that sort of mindset. And you know, it's your country at the end of the day. You pay taxes. You build the country to what it is today. You would want to be able to defend that country. I don't know how that's not evident. That's the, like, if the country is under pressure, then yeah, you would want to defend the country that you paid to make, as well as the country that your kids grew up in and that your wife stays in. I mean, it's a very simple argument. But anyway, but yeah, anyway, and you know, and it shouldn't be fair. And the reason why it's fair is because, let's say some people volunteered to defend their country and some people didn't volunteer to help their country. You dismiss all arguments against it because you don't care about individual freedom and autonomy. You eat all nationalistic collective bullshit like a piranha eats meat. You know, like, you know, if you want to make an argument against it, then make an argument against it. But saying you eat all nationalists, you know, this is the argument that everyone uses. They don't. You can. It's like the. I'm not going to use that example, but it's like the. You know, you go up to like a black person or a Jewish person, and you just say something like, "Oh, why are you guys rioting?" And they call you a racist. They call you an anti-Semite. Can we be serious? Can we be serious? Can you call me a liar? You know, you don't bring up any argument to actually substantiate your point. You just say, you eat all nationalistic collective bullshit. I made it many times before and revert to the propaganda you eat. I don't eat any propaganda. These are my thoughts. These are my personal thoughts. I don't listen to anyone else say this. Personally, I don't. I don't even watch YouTube or anything like that. So I don't eat. So it's my personal view. How is it fair that some people volunteer to defend their country and then some people don't volunteer to defend their country, but they get access to all the benefits when they didn't go out and fight for their country? It's stupid. Everyone should. Everyone has to defend their country. If they want to live in that country, they have to defend that country. It's a very simple argument. I mean, your argument's individual freedom, and you have like this Margaret Thatcher, you know, everything's about the individual, you know, super libertarian viewpoint. It's never gonna work. You know, the only point I remember you saying is the governments are corrupt, so we should just all run away. But all the governments in the world are corrupt, so we should just keep running. It's a completely ridiculous argument. Doesn't even make sense. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you're probably writing right now. I don't know what you're gonna say, but it's a very simple argument I bring forth. You could repeat your argument again if that's not your argument, but that's what I remember it to be. You know, the government's corrupt. It can just make up its own lies for its own personal reasoning to take over other countries, and can justify means through wrong things, and it can per se. But I mean, who are we to say, and where's the evidence to suggest that that's actually true? Yeah, they might have done it one time with the in the Iraq War, for example, but there's been a numerous amount of other times where governments have been telling the truth, and you will actually have to defend your country. So, yeah. I mean, then when are we going to know when people are lying and when people are going to be when people are telling the truth? We can't even differentiate the two. Well, we just never trust the government. We never trust anything they say. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, let me message your friend Discord. I haven't even messaged him yet. I mean, do you have anything to say or no? AP News. Looking through the Discord. I don't know, man. I'll get my manager to handle this situation. Anyway, yeah, I mean that was basically the sum of the topics for today. Yeah, I mean, do you have any other points to bring up on military conscription? I don't mind hearing them. I don't mind having this discussion. But I mean, we gotta be serious here. You know what I mean? Like, if you wanna have this debate, then we gotta bring at least bring forth a proper argument. You know, saying that, oh, you eat all nationalistic collectivist bullshit like a piranha eats meat. You know, you could say that, but there's really no That's not really a rebuttal. You know what I mean? It's like saying, oh, the Iraq War was a scam, and then someone says, oh, you're an American hater. I mean, was he lying though? Can you disprove the point? You just attack him as an individual or attack his viewpoints, but you don't actually attack the viewpoint. You know what I mean? Say it's propaganda when he doesn't even watch any sort of it's just an individual thought. But yeah, I mean, anyway. Let me just. Anyway, yeah. You can follow me on TikTok, by the way, too. Okay, there we go. Wow, I was waiting for it. You say you should not be concerned with the virtue of a government idea on which a country is based on. You say we should trust a government. Look at you. You say nothing influenced your ideas. Really, you want to take a serious perpetuous claim because you are drunk on your collectivist statistics ideology. You think individual rights are irrelevant, ignoring all the occasions where war and disaster occurred because of such mentality took over. Okay. All I said was that if you pay taxes in a country, right, you therefore are basically funding that country, you're building that country, right? You could call it your home. I mean, that's how many of us conservatives look at our countries. We look at it as our home. That's why we don't want immigrants in our country. That's why we don't want, foreign aid going out. That's why we want our countries to come first. China, USSR, Germany, Ukraine, collectivist, statistic, authoritarian environment. You could say that, but China is a highly successful country. Germany is a highly successful country. Ukraine, maybe not. But I mean, these countries work, obviously. But anyway, let's get back to the point. What I was saying is, at the end of the day, if you're choosing to live in that country, right, and you consider that country to be your home, and let's say in a certain scenario, Russia starts to attack the EU, and they're going to attack you, and they're going to attack you next, and if they take the EU, they're going to be the most statist. I don't know what does that mean, statist. I haven't come across that word before. Say statist. Oh, statist. What does statist mean? But anyway, yeah, what I was saying is basically that these countries, if you choose to live in these countries, yeah, I mean, if some people, let's say the country's under a major war or they're being attacked by someone, right? So what? Half the country is going to be like, yeah, I want to fight to defend my country, and then the other half's like, no. And then let's say they win the war, so the people who didn't fight have the same rights as the people who went out and fought and risked their lives? That's not how it should work. Everyone should be going to defend their country. Countries are not from God, nor a result of best ideas that people had. There are thousands of states during history. What is that the definition of statist? I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I understand that countries are built by people specifically. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that at all. Anyway, but that is not the definition. Oh, okay, that's just a point. So countries are not from God, nor a result of the best ideas people had. I understand that the people make a country. Look, at the end of the day, how can you say that people shouldn't want to defend their country? And if your argument is such, then let's say a country actually does need to defend itself, and let's say it's by choice, so the people can choose to go and defend the country, and some people can choose not to go. How would you distribute the rights? As in, the people who go and defend their country and risk their lives, should they have the same rights then as the people who chose not to? Is that what you're saying? sometimes we just have to look at it more from a logic standpoint. And yeah, I think it's clear, it's very evident that that shouldn't be the case. But let me just check the. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, let me search up what statist means, so we're on the same page. Statist. Yeah, I am statist. I think that that the government should control what's going on economically. People don't make a no. People don't make a country. You should don't want to become property of government who claims to represent the best interest of a mass people just because you were born there or you have ended up there. You ever ask yourself why you're so dismissive of personal liberty and individual rights to their body? Yeah, because I think it's clearly evident that, firstly, through just basic pattern recognition, we can see that the world has come to the way it has today because of certain policies that have been implemented, right? So it's developed in the way that it has, and let's say it developed in another way. Let's say we had your world 500 years ago. Let's say there was a society with your world, your worldview, and let's say, okay, not even let's just say there were still guns and stuff. So let's even say 50 years ago, and it was your society, and it had all your laws and everything. That society would be absolutely castrated out. It would be taken over if it was 500 years ago, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And two, people definitely make a country. How do people not make the country? They literally pay taxes, and taxes, obviously I understand the government prints money and whatnot, but for the most part the taxes are taxes for the most part through the budget surplus is what really is what's used to repay the debt in which the money is printed out for. So yeah, I mean, the people do make the country. The people do fund all the buildings and the government, any government enterprises that that are active in the country. For example, we have the NHS in the UK, and you say a government who claims to represent. Why do you dismiss the concern I brought with the USSR being statistic and authoritarian measures were easy to implement because it was statist? Yeah, but the USSR is just a very, very bad example to use. It was a very, very bad. Stalin literally killed how many people? Like 10 million people. And I know what you're talking about. It's under the Iron Curtain. And he killed 10 million people under that regime. And even after him, yeah, there was a president who continued that for a while, and then now it stopped. You're talking about the USSR? You mad? Question mark. I'm not mad at all. Anyway, then you say you don't want to become why are we talking about the USSR anyway? I want to talk about the Western countries. I don't even consider Russia a Western country anyway. But anyway, you say a government who claims to represent the best interests of the mass people, but sometimes they do represent the best interests of the mass people. For example, even in England, we have the NHS here. It's a public service. It's free healthcare. Is that not in representation of of mass people? We have free education here. Free education is a public service. Is that not in representation of the mass people? Sometimes the government does represent the mass people. It is a great example of what your ideas can end up creating. It is not free, it is subsidized. Yeah, but they could have. Yeah, of course it's subsidized, but other countries don't have it. Why doesn't a country like Germany have free healthcare? Why doesn't a country like there's many countries that are richer than the UK. Look at India or look at China. Why don't they have free healthcare? Tell me. And yeah, it's subsidized. It's funded by British taxpayers. But they could have used that money for other bullshit, like sending it to Ukraine. But no, they work in favor of the mass people. It is government paid as in subsidized. My friend, I understand it's government paid. I know it's government paid. I understand. But do you know what a subsidy is? First things first. It's paid by taxpayers, right? First things first. They just cut heat aid, no? To send help to Ukraine. Oh, you mean like heating? Yeah, they did. But what I was saying is basically, I understand it's subsidized, but let's say you have a British person earning 1 million pounds a year. He's paying 500,000. Well, he's paying, it's not exactly, let's say it's around 400,000. He's paying 400,000 pounds in tax versus someone who earns 20,000 pounds in the UK, doesn't pay any tax. Or let's say 15,000 pounds, doesn't pay any tax. Is it free for him? When he goes to the, let's say someone was paying the 500,000 pounds, that money is being used, or at least a portion of that money is being used to subsidize these and yeah, it's a public service. You can say it's subsidized, but it's a public service. It's not Wait, did you just? Is the NHS? Yeah, exactly. The NHS is predominantly funded from UK general taxation and national insurance contributions. Yeah, so someone who pays tax of 500,000 which is used to fund the NHS, for someone who pays no tax, he still gets the same benefits. So is that not in favor of the mass public? Because the person who has 500,000 pounds, he can go. Let's say there wasn't public healthcare, it would be much cheaper for him to go. Well, not cheaper, but it would be much easier for him to go and get healthcare from a, private doctor or something, right? Whereas the other person would find it way much more expensive too. But by combining these two together, and creating a public healthcare system, it allows for more equality between, and yeah, basically reduces inequality in the country. But yeah, so no, and clearly it's free. And when I say it's free, what I'm saying is, when I go to the doctor, I don't pay any money. Do you understand what I mean when I say it's free healthcare? I can go to the doctor and I don't pay any money. Yes, it's subsidized, but I'm at university right now. I work a job for free. I don't pay taxes right now. Right? So for me, is it not free? Is that not in interest of the mass people, of the mass British people? Of course it is. Of course it's in interest. The government does work to represent the people sometimes. This whole ideology, this conspiracy theory, the government's, not in favor of the mass people. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's its own subsect of just craziness, I have to say. And is education not in favor of the mass? You realize corrupt deals with the state subsidizes lifestyle of loads of people, yes. Pay out tax money they don't earn in honest ways. Because of the deeply corrupt government you have, regardless of who in its power, top military and security agency employees are connected to government money that they would not get without corruption and hold power. Okay, sure, there's corruption, but you just said earlier that the government does not represent the mass, does not represent the ideas, or the government claims to represent the mass ideas of the people when they don't. The people wanted a public healthcare service. The people like the NHS. The people like free education. This is in representation of the mass people, is it not? Additionally, you say you realize there's corrupt deals with the states. So you're saying lifestyle of loads of people. So you're saying people pay out tax corruptly? What is your point? You realize there's corrupt deals with the state. Subsidizes the lifestyle of loads of people who yes pay out tax money they don't earn in honest ways. They don't earn in honest ways. Do you think the average individual is like money laundering and doing all this shit? I think the average person earns tax honestly. I think the average person tries to be a good sovereign citizen. In my opinion. Well, it's not even an opinion. I think that's just an objective fact. You realize the corrupt deals with the state subsidizes the lifestyles of loads of people who, yes, pay out tax. If anything, you know what? The West is actually the least corrupt. You go to countries like Dubai, you go to countries like Qatar, there's a lot of corruption there. You go to countries outside of the West, when it comes to money laundering and all this stuff, there's way more. Don't ask me how I know that, but there's way more of that. That's all I'm saying. Not like I'm involved with anything. But I'm just letting you know that there's a lot more of that stuff going on in that subsect of the world. Because I have some friends who, yeah. But anyway, not who do it, but who, yeah. We won't get into that, but anyway, because of the government, deeply corrupt government you have, regardless of who is in power. Yeah, I agree. It's corrupt, but I mean, to say it's completely corrupt to its core is ridiculous. I think it's just a ridiculous mindset. You know what I mean? I think that this idea, we can't trust the government. We can never trust the government. We have to. They're all corrupt. Everyone who's getting in is corrupt. I think it's a bit ridiculous. I think the UK government is slightly corrupt, yes, and there needs to be some sort of reform. But to say it's completely corrupt and it's this that. I mean, it's ridiculous. If it was that corrupt, the people would have stood up by now. I think I think that's quite evident. And how did we even get here? I mean, we were talking about military conscription. You didn't even address my point. First things first. Second, why do you dismiss the concern USSR being? I mean, you were talking about the USSR being authoritarian. Sure, it was authoritarian, but being authoritarian made it one of the most powerful countries in the world. So maybe it worked, did it not? Yeah, some people were subjugated. Yeah, some people were treated unfairly, but now they live much better lives, do they not? Does the average Russian live a better life than the average African in Congo? Probably. So, but anyway. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that's the sum of it, really. Let's see. I think that you realize you don't understand what I point out. I say there are two classes. One who pays out of earned money, and those who are protected by the state and the political elite. State doesn't represent the best interests of individual in a statist society. Look at military sales of BAE Systems and UK elite. Prince Andrew was working on military equipment sales to other governments. Just because you have socialized medicine doesn't get you a free society. See how you revert to dismiss suffering just to praise power. That's just completely incorrect. You are the one that said the government doesn't represent the mass, the ideas of the mass that the mass people support. So I came out and I said, is replay video. Replay what video? I'm not replaying that video. We can discuss it. I remember what was in the video. You said USSR suffering. What? You're the one who said that the government don't represent the ideas of the mass people. I said with public health care, that's obviously a representation of the ideas of the mass people. One. Two, I said that the education system, the public education system, is also a representation of the people, of the mass people. That you made that point. I didn't say that the I mean, whatever you said. Oh, you see how you revert to dismiss suffering just to praise power. I say we have it on video as a stream recording. Watch 1 minute of your. Watch last 1 minute of your stream. Of my prior stream. Okay. We'll watch it. We'll bring it up. We'll bring it up. Let's go to the videos. Post some clips. Let's go to the end. The last 1 minute. What are you talking about? You mean probably prior to this? I mean, where do you give me a timestamp? Give me a timestamp and I'll go look at it. I didn't say it was worth it. I said that because of that, they do have a better life than most people, which is true. I'm not saying what they did was right and they could have done it in a better way. Of course they could have. But you're talking about Russia here. We're talking about. I mean, it's such a bad example. I already said this. It's a bad example. I said, yeah. So I don't want to talk about we're talking about the West here. We're not talking about what Russia do. You want to talk about those countries? So what do you think? What Iraq is doing with letting kids get married at 9 years old is right? We talk about so many bad things that these countries have done. The West is is the fairest of them all. That's the point I'm bringing up. I mean, I live in the West. Honestly, my whole policy is basically Western countries first. When I say that, I mean basically Britain first. Britain should come first in terms of policy. I don't care what Russia does. I don't care what Israel does. I don't care about any of these other countries. What I care about is the UK, and that's it. If I'm being primarily honest. And obviously, I do care about and Western countries to a degree because they directly affect the UK, such as the USA. And I mean, it's just an objective fact that the Russian citizens do live a better life now than the average African person, and that's yeah. And I mean, that's you praised totality and state power. You need to talk about the USSR because it was hegemonical USA for many decades, where a statist system with no care, freedom of speech, for body of autonomy existed. I disagree. I'm saying it right now. I disagree with the way in which they did it. But yeah, I already told you I disagree with the Iron Curtain and everything that happened under it. I disagree with the authoritarian power. I disagree with communism, and I disagree with all that stuff. USSR was a hegemon along with the USA. Yeah, sure it was. But at the end of the day, you keep praising it today. You did say it was worth it. Okay, but am I lying? I didn't say it was worth it. I said it worked. Because they do live better lives now. Do they not? Am I saying we're never going to go back to that? But to criticize it and say everything was bad. Everything was so horrendous. But but their countries are so much better. If everything they did was so bad and the governments are so corrupt, why is the average person living in Russia or the USA have a higher happiness index, have a higher standard of living, have a overall just better lives? Why does everyone from other countries want to come into countries like the USA, countries like the UK, if their governments are so corrupt, if their governments, if their governments were so corrupt, then the people would be, completely distraught and basically in awe. But they're not. They're not. They have better lives than most people in the world, which means they probably did something right. And maybe the way in which they did it was wrong, but at that time, in that period of time, stuff like that happened. We just have to admit it. There was a whole bunch of bad stuff that was happening at the time. I mean, maybe you're a big supporter of this, but at that time, transgenderism wasn't allowed, right? Or even gay people wasn't allowed. At that time in many countries, the legal age of marriage was a super young age. Were we going to criticize people about that now? What they did worked, and that's why their country is prospering now. That's an objective fact. It's an objective fact. And to come out and just to criticize completely is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I think that I agree. I think there's problems with our governments now. Of course I do. But to say that it was just completely bad is it's just a ridiculous argument. Yeah, there was some stuff there were some things that they did were bad and that they could have not done, which would probably no. Look at the transition to market economy in post-USSR country. The Soviet system existing ended up making a transition to market economy, destroying economy of millions, and millions of jobs were lost. Huge amount of children suffered. Okay, sure, they switched to a free market. You're talking about a free market economy, I'm guessing, which caused a lot of suffering. I understand. That's fine. But is the average person's life in the US, in Russia right now better than the average person in Africa? Or we can even talk about a free state. Is the average person's life in Russia better than the average person's life in a country like even Haiti. You know, a country like Haiti, which has been independent for a long time now. Yeah, it is. It's objective. The answer is yes, it is. And yeah, they had to suffer. And yeah, you know what? In the past, yeah, lots of children suffered. Yeah, you know what else happened in the past? Yeah, people were allowed to get married at like 10 years old. In countries like Africa, the age of marriage is 10 years old, right? Do you think children are suffering there right now? So, look, the point being is a lot of bad stuff happened back then. There were world wars. There were innocent, there were killing of innocents. There was a whole bunch of bad stuff that happened. I understand, and I don't agree with it. I'm Christian at the end of the day. I don't believe in the killing of anyone. I don't believe in children suffering. I don't even believe in a authoritarian state or authoritarian government. I don't believe in this. I don't even believe in a deep state. I believe everyone in the government should, pose their names out there so they can be held accountable. But to go out and to just attack, the USSR and everything that they've done, sure, they did some bad things. I understand. But, I mean, the outcome of it was, yeah, sure, bad things happened at the time. But at the end of the day, and yeah, I know their economy isn't that strong now, but that's largely because of their, basically the EU cutting off trade to the USSR and a whole bunch of other stuff. And mostly it's because of their adversaries. But nowadays, but yeah, I mean, still the average Russian still lives a better life than arguably most people in the world do. So yes, Russia has a huge demographic problem. They're a statist system with little regard to most individual rights. Look at Chechnya and compare it to the rest of Russia. They're basically two different systems in one country. Yeah, but Chechnya is ruled by what's his name? Ramzan Kadyrov, who's basically Putin's puppet, and he doesn't even represent the average the average Chechen or whatever you call them. It is part of the Russian Federation. Yeah, I know it is. But Chechnya was fighting for independence for such a long time, and yeah, they basically eventually stopped. And Ramzan Kadyrov came in, who was the son of a previous the previous Chechnyan leader, and he came in, he made deals with Putin, and now the Chechen people are living at least a safer life. Look at basically two different systems in one country. Yeah, I know there are two different systems, but Putin has come to allow that. It doesn't mean that they don't align with the Russian government, or the people don't align with Russian values. If Russia went to war, for example, the Chechens are being sent to the war in Ukraine. The Chechens are fighting in the Ukraine war. It might be two different systems, but it's under one system. That's the point. Anyway, it is part of the Russian Federation. Yeah, it's part of the Russian Federation, sure. But the point being is, when Russia's in trouble, the Chechens still come to help, even though they still consider themselves Russians. That's why they fight when Russia is getting attacked, even though it's not anywhere near them. So, and yeah, you could make the argument that, it's because of Ramzan Kadyrov and he's a corrupt leader and blah 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 blah. But look, I couldn't care less about Russia, right? I care about our policies and what we do, and I don't care about Russia right now. And the objective fact and the objective reality is, the average Russian does live a better life than the average African or the average even South American, someone in Brazil or a country like that. And the reason is because of the policies that were undertaken in the past. And yeah, you might not like some of those policies. You might not like policies. So what? Because Italy under the Roman Empire, You know, children were able to get married at the age of 9 years old, or 10 years old, or whatever it is. So what? Now you don't like Italy? Now you don't like Italy? Now you think Italy's corrupt? No, I mean it's a stupid argument. It's a stupid argument. Yeah, at some point these governments were corrupt. They're becoming less corrupt now. Money laundering cases are being caught now at a higher rate than any time before. You know, through the use of technology, cybersecurity has been going up significantly. Police systems have been going up. You know, the police have been getting more. You know, they're using these. I don't know what you call them, but you know, police in just normal attire. You know, they're catching people in the streets. You know, doing phone theft and whatnot. You know, murders are caught at a much higher rate. More people are put in jail for murders than compared to any time before. And to say that the system is kind of regressing is just a stupid argument. The system is definitely getting better. There wasn't free healthcare 50 years ago in the UK, but now there is, which is a good thing. There wasn't free education 100 years ago, but now there is, which again is a good thing. And to say it isn't is just ridiculous, and it's just a ridiculous argument. I mean, the government sometimes does work in representation of the mass, just like the mass didn't want to stop mass immigration, and the government in the USA is clearly working to that. Immigrant crossings have been at an all-time low in the US ever since Trump has come in. They've been at an all-time low. Is that not in favor of what the mass public wanted? Immigration was one of the big reasons Trump even won. It was one of the day before Trump came into office, there was a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Is that not in favor of the mass public? Ceasefires? You realize I kept pointing out why you should be cautious of supporting statist ideas and putting everyone in a country in one basket. Because a country doesn't equal a right or good. Look at a role of propaganda to help elite and their ideas have significant support among the masses. You make no sense. They are corrupt. Look at their weapons deals. You think private companies never benefit from favors from politicians? Are they also? I completely agree with you. I completely 100% agree with you. Yes, that is true. I agree. Private companies do benefit. I agree. Propaganda is a thing. I agree that the government is corrupt and they make some corrupt decisions to benefit their own ideas. But what I'm saying is, it would be ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, to assume that every idea placed is in benefit for themselves. No. I would say that 70 or at least 60% of all ideas are actually in favor of the mass public, and maybe 40% are for their own benefits. To say that the 100% of all the ideas don't benefit the mass public at all is such a ridiculous idea. I can't even have that argument. Can't have that argument. Sure, people benefit from deals and whatnot, but this is a minority of people, by the way. This is the elites. The elites are a minority. Sure, some people benefit from certain deals, but to say that, you know, it doesn't benefit the public as well is ridiculous. For example, we can talk about what's going on with AI and H-1B visas in the USA. You know, clearly these major tech firms from Silicon Valley predominantly, you have the biggest war after World War II in Ukraine. I mean, that's not really the biggest war, I would say. I mean, there's more people who died in the Israel-Gaza conflict, if I'm not wrong. But anyway, well, innocent people at least. You have the biggest war after World War II in Ukraine, and your beloved West support war occurring and it being prolonged. The blood of hundreds of thousands of men in Ukraine and Russia are on the hands of your favorite system. I mean, how biggest war in Europe after World War II? Sure, okay, biggest war in Europe. I mean, how is supporting Ukraine any different? I mean, Russia, when it had control of Eastern Europe, literally subjugated those countries under the Iron Curtain. 1. 2. Of course they're going to support Ukraine. Ukraine want to join NATO and Russia's not allowing them to. Russia don't own Ukraine. Ukraine should have the freedom or the liberty which is what you promote all the time, right? Having the freedom or individual ideas to make their own decisions, they should have the ability to do that. Russia won't. Says, oh, if you don't join NATO, then we're going to attack you. But Ukraine's its own separate country, so why can't they make their own decisions? So of course the West is going to support them, and Ukraine's obviously a part of Western Europe, which Russia's not, and of course they're going to support their allies. I mean, this is just evident. I mean, what country doesn't support the allies? You think if Saudi Arabia, let's say Saudi Arabia indiscriminately started bombing a country in Africa, do you think Qatar is going to be like, oh, Saudi Arabia, yeah, you know what, we don't support you anymore, we'll go to war to you over some African country? No, they're not. They're going to support Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is their ally. This is evident. Countries are going to support their allies, one. Two, we don't support the war occurring. If anything, since Trump has come in, he's been pushing for peace, and Putin has actually been also been pledging for peace. Although over 12 million refugees left in Ukraine, war should have not been allowed to happen. The cost is not worth the loss of lives, and you have little chance to resist Russia. You're saying the cost is not worth the lives, but we didn't make that decision. If Ukraine wants to make if Ukraine wants to make their own decisions and doesn't want to be ruled as this puppet state, then let them fight for it. It's the same thing as fighting for independence. So what you're saying is, let's say the UK or the US decided to attack the whole of Africa, right? Let's say they decided to attack the whole of Africa, right? Right now, back to colonial times, right? The US attacks the whole of Africa. Africa stands zero chance of beating the USA. Zero chance, right? So what? They should just allow them? They shouldn't defend themselves? Oh yeah, you know what? Just take us all. We'll become your puppet state, USA. We're not gonna fight for our country. We're not gonna fight for our people. Just take us. Like, I mean, it's such a stupid idea. It's such a stupid idea. But anyway. I'm just messaging someone. But anyway, saying that I mean, being in support for Russia in that situation would be ridiculous, and yeah. It's just a ridiculous argument. It's literally like Germany in World War II. Oh yeah, you know, Czechoslovakia can't defend themselves, so we're just gonna let them take Czechoslovakia. Oh, you know what? They took Czechoslovakia. Now they want to attack Poland. Poland can't really defend themselves against Germany. We can't let them take Poland. They're just gonna keep doing that. They're gonna keep doing that for every single country they're on. Someone needs to stand up eventually. But anyway, I mean, we have hit the 2-hour mark. The reason I'm doing 2-hour streams is because I need to basically, if you go to my TikTok, I do create clips and I post them on there. So, you know, I do get off the stream. I'm gonna eat first, and then I'm gonna post everything onto TikTok. Like I'll post some clips from the stream and then post them on TikTok, like maybe 1 or 2. So yeah, so otherwise I'll do like 4-hour streams, but I think it's better to just do it this way. But anyways, I see you're not responding. So yeah, we'll call that a day. It was great speaking to you. I like having these debates. You know, you learn a lot from talking to people you disagree with. So, you know, you brought up some interesting arguments, some good points as well. But yeah, anyway, it was nice. Read my message. Over 12 million refugees left in Ukraine. I did read your message. You're saying the cost should not. You're saying, oh, because there's 12 million refugees left in Ukraine. Oh, you mean left Ukraine? Yeah, that's because they had to leave. It was the women and children specifically. And yeah, it's a bad thing, but it's war. Like, bad stuff happens in war. You know, like like these kids being bombed in Israel. Bad things happened. Bad things happen in war. I mean, we might not like it, but it's the reality of war. And I'm not saying that it's right. It's obviously wrong, but it's the reality of war. I mean, bad things happen, but they chose to fight for their liberty. Are you sure about yours? You do sure about your assumptions? You do sure about your assumptions? Read. You do sure about your assumptions? I don't know where that is. Okay, it came up now. You so sure about your assumptions, you don't understand that you propose a bad deal for Ukraine inhabitants and for Europe, as in deepening industrialization, because it's like word by word. So deepening deindustrialization increases crime, poverty, reduction in welfare spending in favor of military spending, increased dependency in the USA, energy like LNG. Yes, I understand, but you didn't even address any of my points. You just brought up your own point. They chose to do it because they don't want to be a puppet state to Russia. That's why they chose to do it. Yeah, they can't defend themselves. Yeah, they have to increase spending on military. So what, they should just give up their land to Russia? Or they should just choose not to join NATO and be this and let Russia have sovereignty over them? Sovereignty over them? I mean, it's just, it'll never, like, of course they want to have the freedom to make their own decisions, and yeah, they want to fight for it. So what if the USA and I said this again, if the USA attacked the whole of Africa, even let's say the whole of South America can't defend themselves. So they should just give up all their land? They should just give it away? No, of course they want to fight for their country. Of course they want to fight for their freedom. The argument against that is ridiculous. And yeah, that's all I have to say. We'll call that a day though, because I do need to make some clips. You can check out my TikTok. It was lovely talking to you again. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be on tomorrow. Maybe, if not tomorrow, we'll definitely be on Friday. War should be averted and impeded by the West. I mean, impeded. Do you know what impeded? It's fine. The freedom of Ukraine inhabitants is not at stake in this war. Their freedom was not in mind before the war started. Sure, but once Russia takes control, their freedom can't ever be changed. Whereas, you know, if it's a smaller subsection of a government, which it would be without Russian rule, there is a higher chance that the Ukrainian people can revolt and can change those policies, whereas otherwise they wouldn't be able to. If it's, I mean, they what are they going to do? Go march to Moscow? They're going to get shot. You know what I mean? At least if it's their own people, they can make better decisions. And war should be averted. Russia. So the only way for war to be averted would be to let Ukraine be taken over by Russia, or to let Ukraine not join NATO, which means that they're basically this puppet state of Russia. They can't make their own decisions. So it's a lose-lose. So, but anyways, I'm ending stream now. Thank you for watching, and take care.